Next, we're moving to number 51, still on page 377. And I've written w squared plus 2w plus 1. You observe that the leading coefficient is 1. So this time we don't need to make the x. We just do w and w. And we find two numbers that we can multiply to get 1 and combine to get 2, which is 1 plus 1, because 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 plus 1 is 2. Now, when this happens and you have w plus 1 and w plus 1, we write it as w plus 1 squared. And that would be the final answer for that problem. All right, let's move on to number 53. Again, the leading coefficient's 1. So I'm just going to make my two parentheses and put x and x. And I need two numbers that I can multiply to get 16 and combine to get 8, which is 4 and 4. And remember, we said if this sign is positive, the signs will be alike, and they will be like whatever that is. So I need a minus and a minus. Now, since they're the same factor, I write it as x minus 4 squared for my final answer. Now I'm on number 61. This one, the leading coefficient is not 1, so I multiply the 16 and the 25, and I get a positive 400. I copy the negative 40 here, and my two numbers that I can multiply to get 400 and combine to get 40 are negative 20 and negative 20. Because 20 times 20 is 400, and negative 20 plus negative 20 is negative 40. So back over here, I copy my 16x squared. I replace this with minus 20x minus 20x plus 25, copying my last term. From the first two, I can factor out a 4x, and I get 4x minus 5. I copy the 4x minus 5 down here and ask, what do I multiply by 4x to get a negative 20x? And the answer is a negative 5. Negative 5 times negative 5 is a positive 25. So my common factor is 4x minus 5. And my other factor is also 4x minus 5. So my final answer is 4x minus 5 squared. All right, for the next part of this lesson, we're going back to the purple sheet, and I want you to write a cubed plus b cubed. It's a pattern, and we're going to factor it as a plus b. Then we're going to do a squared minus ab plus b squared. Sorry, I lost the video there. There it is. Okay, and I also want you to write a cubed minus b cubed, and write a minus b, and a squared plus ab plus b squared. Now, let's look at the similarity of those. First of all, the two numbers have to be perfect cubes. And if it's a cube, then if it's a sum, this one's a sum. If it's a difference, this one's a difference. If this is a plus, this is a minus. If this is a minus, this is a plus. And this one is always a plus. And this term is made up, square the first, multiply them together, and square the last. Let me say that again where you can see the video. square the first, multiply them together, square the last. If you want to see some reason of why it is that way, in your book on page 374, there's an explanation of why it follows the pattern that it does. And then there's some examples worked out of factoring the difference of cubes. And then finally over here on page 375, there's some factoring the sum of cubes. And then they've summarized right here what we did on our purple sheet. Now, number 1 on page 376 may be helpful. Well, not that one. That's not the one I was talking about. Sorry. It's number 73 on page 378. This is where you list some cubes, and that might be helpful for you to complete that so that you'll recognize what the cube root of some numbers are. All right, we're going to start with number 79, and this is coming from page 378. Page 378. Now, there are two terms. They are both perfect cubes, so I copy the two cube roots, a and 1. This is a minus sign, so I put a minus. And remember the pattern from my purple sheet was square the first, multiply them together, and square the last. So I'm going to square the first one, which makes it a squared. I'm going to multiply them together. 1 times a is just a. And then I square the last one, which is 1. Don't worry about using the sign. Just use the a and the 1. If this is a minus, this is a plus, this is always a plus. And that's the end. That's the final answer. All right, so let's move down to number 81. The cube root of m cubed is m, and the cube root of 8 is 2. This is a plus, so I put a plus here. Then I square the first one. I multiply them together, and I square the last one. If this is a plus, this is a minus. This is always a plus. All right, next I'm moving to number 85. The cube root of k cubed is k, and the cube root of 1,000 is 10. This is a plus, so I use a plus here. I square the first one. I multiply them together, and I square the last one. If this is plus, this is minus, this is always a plus. Next, we've got number 87. The cube root of 27x cubed is 3x. And the cube root of 64 is 4. This is a minus sign, so I put a minus. Square the first. 3x times 3x is 9x squared. Then 3x times 4 is 12x. And 4 squared is 16. If this is minus, this is plus. This one's always a plus. And there's my final answer. Next, we're going to move down to number 91. And just like we've been saying all along, the first thing you have to do is factor out a common factor. So the common factor here is 6. So I factor that out first. And then what's remaining is the sum of cubes. So I do p plus 1. I keep the 6 that I'd factored out. Then I square the p. I multiply p times 1 and square the 1. If this is a plus, this is a minus. This one's always a plus. There's my final answer. Moving down to number 95. The cube root of y cubed is y, and the cube root of 8x cubed is 2x. This is a minus, so this is a minus. I square the first one, so y squared. I multiply them together, so y times 2x is 2xy, and I square the last one. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. If this is a minus, this is a plus, this is always a plus. There's my final answer for that one. My last problem in this group is number 99. The cube root of 8p cubed is 2p, and the cube root of 729q to the third is 9q. This is a plus, so I put a plus. Then I square the first one. So 2p times 2p becomes 4p squared. I multiply 2p times 9q and get 18p cubed. Then I square the last one. 9q times 9q is 81q squared. If this is a plus, this is a minus, this is always a plus, and that's my final answer for that problem. You should now be ready to complete the second part of 5.3 and do 5.4.